The Brotherhood Dilemma: Faith, Power, and the Global Shadow. The question that won't go away. What do we do with the Muslim Brotherhood? The question, simple in form, tangled in meaning, has echoed across nations, generations, and political ideologies. Depending on who you ask, the answer may change entirely. To some, the Brotherhood is a grassroots movement of faith, education, and welfare, Islam's answer to moral decline and political injustice. To others, it's a sleeper cell, a gateway to extremism, violence, and destabilization. So who's right? Today we step into that question, not to answer it with certainty, but to explore the complexity that makes it so hard to resolve. Because to understand the Muslim Brotherhood, you have to understand its past, its evolution, its ideas, its global reach, and the fears and hopes it leaves in its wake. This is not a defense, it is not a condemnation, it's a journey through time, thought, and tension. Welcome back to Work, Life and Conspiracies, the podcast where the normal bumps into the unexplainable, where Monday morning meetings, geopolitical headlines and theological prophecies all sit at the same table. I'm your host, Michael Deegan, and today I want to talk to you about something that frankly I've hesitated to bring up before, because it's heavy, it's controversial, and it might change the way you see the world around you, but I think we need to talk about it. So let's start. Born in fire and raised in faith, in Egypt, 1928, a land under the shadow of empire. British influence dominates politics. The monarchy is weak, and the people, many poor, many disillusioned, search for meanings in a world that seems to have lost its moral compass. In the canal city of Ismaila, a 22-year-old schoolteacher named Hassan al-Banna sits in a modest classroom. He's not a general, he's not a cleric, just a man with conviction. He looks around and sees people stripped of their cultural pride. Colonial modernity has brought railways and radios, but has also decadence, inequality, and spiritual drift. He believes Islam is not a religion, it's a system, a framework, a way to live fully ethically, spiritually, politically, and so he begins. With 6 men in a tea shop, together they form al-Banna, the Muslim Brotherhood. At first, it's humble, educational, charitable morale. They build schools, offer aid, preach integrity. But al-Banna dreams bigger. He believes society must return to Islamic prophecies gently, gradually, but entirely. His vision is evolutionary, not revolutionary. Change the man, then the family, then the society, then the state, and perhaps the world. But visions can evolve. And when ideology meets repression, what begins in peace can take another path. Fast forward 2 decades. The Brotherhood has grown, thousands of members, branches across Egypt, but now the state feels threatened. President Gamal Abdel Nasser, a charismatic nationalist, begins a crackdown. Arrests, torture, executions, and from within that prison system another voice raises, Sayyid Qutb. Once a secular intellectual, Qutb's transformation is profound. He's hardened by torture, disillusioned with the West, and radicalized by his experience. In his book Milestones, he writes of Jahila, a return to ignorance, not just among non-Muslims, but within Muslim societies themselves. Why? Because they no longer govern by Sharia. Because man-made laws have reduced divine ones. To Qutb, this is rebellion against God, and so resistance becomes a duty. Hakimiyya, the sovereignty of God, is not a suggestion. It's the foundation of justice. Qutb's rhetoric electrifies parts of the Brotherhood. Others recoil. The movement begins to fracture between those who believe in politics and persecution and those who whisper of holy war. And so the Brotherhood carries within its contradiction al-Banna's patience, Qutb's urgency, reform or revolt. Al-Nasser's Egypt tightens its grip. Brotherhood members flee to Jordan, Syria, Kuwait, Sudan, even to Europe and North America, and with them they carry not just their suffering, but their structure. Soon the Brotherhood becomes more than Egyptian. It becomes transnational. In Jordan, it becomes a recognized political player. In Sudan, it influences policy and ideology. In Tunisia, it births the Ennahda movement, a party that would later embrace democracy, but in Palestine the path diverges sharply. 1987, during the first Intifada, an offshoot emerges, Hamas. Rooted in Brotherhood ideology, Hamas combines mosques, militia, and manifesto. It provides welfare, it builds schools, and it launches rockets. To Israel and much of the West, Hamas is a terrorist organization. To many Palestinians, it's resistance. Here lies the Brotherhood's paradox. A name that holds both ballot and bullet, welfare and warfare. And in this, critics see danger. But the Brotherhood's moderate face masks a radical heart. But defenders argue the opposite. That by giving people a non-violent outlet, the Brotherhood prevents extremism. So which is it? A safety valve or a Trojan horse? The Brotherhood's relationship with power is uneasy. For decades, they existed in the shadows, preaching, organizing, surviving. But then come 2011, the Arab Spring. In Egypt, President Hosni Mubarak fell. The streets erupted in hope and chaos, and for the first time in history, the Muslim Brotherhood entered the political arena with real power. Their political arm, the Freedom and Justice Party, won Egypt's parliamentary elections, and in 2012, Mohamed Morsi, a Brotherhood member, was elected president. To supporters, it was vindication. To critics, it was the beginning of a new authoritarianism, this time wrapped in religious legitimacy. Morsi struggled to govern, accused of consolidating power. The economy worsened, polarization deepened, and in 2013 the military struck back. A coup, mass arrests, a massacre in Rabba Square, thousands killed, imprisoned, exiled. The Brotherhood was outlawed once more in Egypt. In Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Bahrain, they were labeled terrorists. In Qatar and Turkey, they found refuge. Once again, the Brotherhood returned to a familiar position, caught between political ambition and the price of failure. Between bombs and ballots. Are they terrorists? The word terrorist is heavy. It's legal, emotional, strategic, and when applied to the Muslim Brotherhood, it's also deeply contested. Let's be clear. There is no global directive from the Brotherhood to carry out terror, no manifesto calling for indiscriminate violence, and most Brotherhood-linked parties reject such acts. Yet the shadows remain. In 1948, a Brotherhood member assassinated Egypt's prime minister. In later years, splinter groups inspired by Qutb's ideas turned to jihad, al-Qaeda, ISIS. These groups trace part of their ideological lineage through Qutb and not directly to the Brotherhood's political leadership. Then there's Hamas, with its blend of governance and guerrilla warfare. Western governments walk a line. The United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union do not list the Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, but they scrutinize its funding, rhetoric, and affiliations. So where does that leave us? Is the Brotherhood a gateway to radicalism? Or is that guilt by association? Some scholars argue the Brotherhood offers a firewall, a way for conservative Muslims to participate in public life without violence. Others say it's ambiguity, its capacity to speak the language of democracy while harboring ambitions of theocracy. It's precisely the problem. Maybe the Brotherhood is both mirror and mask, reflecting local frustrations, masking deeper ambitions, always evolving, never quite pinned down. Money, mosques, and mistrust. Follow the money. It's a familiar phrase in political investigations. When it comes to the Muslim Brotherhood, financial networks have raised both interest and suspicion. Officially, the Brotherhood claims its funding comes from members' dues, local donations, and private business ventures. And to be fair, this is often true. But in many countries, Brotherhood-linked organizations run businesses, schools, and clinics that collect support from the communities they serve. But critics ask deeper questions. Where do these funds go? And are they supporting social programs or ideological indoctrinations? Are donations clean or channeled towards more radical ends? In some cases, investigations have found troubling overlaps. Charities in the Gulf have been linked, through often inconclusively, to groups later accused of supporting militancy. Some Western NGOs with Brotherhood ties have been accused of political lobbying under the guise of community services. Transparency is murky, trust is fragile, and in geopolitics, optics matter. A Brotherhood-run school that teaches math, literature, and Islamic ethics in one city might be interpreted as soft power infiltration in another, and the same story over and over again. Intentions debated, motives questioned, perceptions polarized, and the Brotherhood, with its decentralized nature, offers no single spokesperson to clarify it at all. The Brotherhood in Britain. The United Kingdom, land of liberal democracy, multiculturalism, and internal contradictions. Starting in the 1960s, Brotherhood members fleeing Nasser's repression found refuge in Britain. They weren't carrying weapons, they carried books, degrees, and dreams of continuing their mission through peaceful means. Over time, they built institutions, the Muslim Association of Britain, the Federation of Student Islamic Societies, the Cordoba Foundation. These organizations offered everything from spiritual education to civic engagement, but they also raised eyebrows for their affiliations, their speakers, and their ideological language. 2015, the British government launched a formal review led by diplomat Sir John Jenkins. The conclusion? The Brotherhood's ideology was counter to British values. It opposed pluralism, it blurred the lines between religion and politics, but crucially, the report found no evidence of direct terrorist activity within the UK. So what did Britain do? It didn't ban the Brotherhood, it didn't label them terrorists, but it did list the organisation as a group of concern under counter-extremism frameworks. What does that mean? It means scrutiny, it means some people won't get visas, it means funding gets monitored, it also means controversy. Supporters argue this is Islamophobia cloaked in policy. Critics say it's national security playing catch-up. And once again, the Brotherhood finds itself in a grey zone between legality and suspicion, a presence tolerated but never fully trusted. The fractured Brotherhood movements are not monoliths, and by the 2020s, the Muslim Brotherhood is less an organisation and more an archipelago. In Tunisia, the Ennahda party moves towards secular alliances. In Turkey, sympathizers shift towards populist nationalism. In Egypt, the core Brotherhood leadership is in exile, in prison, or underground. Internal debates rage. Should they renounce politics entirely? Should they return to quiet preaching and charity? Or should they push harder, leaning into confrontation? Some splinter groups argue that the Brotherhood has grown too soft. Others believe it remains too rigid. And in this fragmentation lies both danger and opportunity. Danger because radical offshoots can form in the vacuum. Opportunity because reformers may steer the movement towards moderation. In the end, Brotherhood's identity crisis mirrors that of the Muslim world itself, caught between tradition and modernity, between political Islam and pluralistic democracy, between faith and power. What do we do with the Muslim Brotherhood is still the question. Only now we wonder why it's so hard to answer. The Brotherhood is not just a group, it's a symbol, a case study, a mirror that reflects how modern societies grapple with religion, governance, security, and identity. To label it as a wholly good or evil is to miss the point. To ignore its influence is naive. To conflate all its branches with militancy is dangerous. So maybe the real question is this: can a movement born from colonial trauma, raised in spiritual revival, and stretched across cultures ever be one thing? Or is it complexity the very reason we must pay attention? That's it for today's episode of Work, Life and Conspiracies. Thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate you spending some time. If you enjoyed the show, feel free to follow, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, thank you.